New Year's Eve had always been a strange time for me. It wasn't about resolutions or celebrations. It was about the emptiness that lingered around the end of the year, the reminder of what had been lost. Everyone else seemed to find joy, to look forward to the future, but for me it felt like nothing had changed. The calendar simply flipped, and with it all the pain, the rejection, the feeling of not being enough. I sat on the couch in the dim glow of my apartment, my phone in my hand, staring at the message box for what seemed like hours. I had never been good at family gatherings, never felt at home with them. But tonight, as the world prepared to welcome the new year, I felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. It had been years since I last saw them. The last time we spoke, the last time I felt like I mattered to them. I typed the message out slowly, watching the words form on the screen. It was simple. I miss you all. And then I hesitated. What was I expecting? Was I looking for a sign? For any kind of validation? Maybe, just maybe, they would respond with warmth, with understanding. But deep down, I knew I wasn't going to get the response I wanted. Not from them. Not after everything. I hit send. It didn't take long before my phone buzzed. My sister had replied. I felt my heart skip a beat. We don't. Stay gone. My fingers froze. I stared at the screen, unable to process the words. How could she say that? How could she really feel that way? We had been a family once, hadn't we? I had spent my whole life trying to fit into their world, trying to be a part of something that was never mine. But this was different. This was the truth. The cold, harsh truth that I had been avoiding for years. I remember the first time I realized I wasn't part of the family. It was when I was 13, on the evening of my parents' anniversary. We were supposed to be having a family dinner, a celebration of their love, of our togetherness. But instead I sat in the kitchen alone, watching them laugh through the living room window. They were toasting with wine glasses, their laughter filling the air, and I was outside of it all. It wasn't that they didn't care. It was that they didn't know how to care for me. I grew up being compared to my siblings. My older brother Sean was always the golden child. Intelligent, athletic, charismatic. He was the one who could do no wrong, the one who everyone gravitated toward. My sister Amy was beautiful, outgoing, and popular. She had everything that I didn't have. And then there was me. Quiet. Unnoticed. Invisible. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fit in. I could never live up to the expectations they set, even if they didn't explicitly say it. The look in my mother's eyes when she'd glance at me during family gatherings. Those moments where she'd smile at my siblings, but when she turned to me her smile faded slightly, told me everything. I wasn't like them. And no matter what I did, I never would be. The years passed and I slowly became a stranger to my own family. Holidays were a blur. I spent birthdays alone in my room. I learned how to fake my happiness when I visited them, sitting at the dinner table, pretending like I wasn't drowning in isolation. They didn't ask how I was doing. They didn't care to. It was easier for them that way, easier to keep up the facade of a perfect family. And so I withdrew further and further into myself, until it felt like I was living in a different world entirely. But no matter how far I distanced myself, there was always a part of me that clung to the hope that they'd come around. That maybe, just maybe, one day they'd realize I was still their family. That they'd finally see me. It wasn't until I left for college that I truly understood the depth of the divide between me and my family. I had finally escaped. I had my own space, my own identity. I made friends who actually listened to me, who cared about me, who saw me for who I was, not who I was supposed to be. When I came home for the holidays, it was a relief at first. I thought maybe things would change. Maybe now that I was on my own, my family would recognize me for the person I had become. But as the days passed, I began to see the same patterns. My parents were focused on Sean's career, Amy's social life, and I was relegated to the sidelines, invisible once again. I tried. I really did. I tried to reach out. I tried to make them see me. I wanted to prove that I wasn't just the quiet one, the overlooked one. But every attempt was met with indifference, passive-aggressive comments, and dismissive glances. It was during one of these visits, a few months before that New Year's Eve message, that the final straw broke. I had invited them to my graduation. My real one, not the pretend celebrations they'd thrown for Sean and Amy. I thought it would be different this time. But they didn't come. Not even a call. No congratulations. No recognition. I was just another name in the crowd, a person who had made it despite their absence. It wasn't just that year. It was that very moment when everything clicked. It was as though a veil had been lifted, revealing the truth I had been avoiding all my life. For years I had fooled myself into thinking that one day something would shift. That one day my family would realize what I needed from them. That maybe, just maybe, I would finally be seen and loved for who I truly was. But now, as I sat there, staring at my phone with my sister's message taunting me from the screen, I understood something painfully simple. I was never going to be a part of their world. The realization hit me like a slap to the face. I had spent my entire life trying to fit into a space where I didn't belong. Trying to be someone I wasn't. Every attempt I made to earn their love, to seek their approval, was like pouring my heart into a bottomless well. Nothing ever came back. The more I tried, the more I faded into the background, a silent observer in a life that wasn't truly mine. For years I had carried the weight of their indifference, convinced that I could make them see me. That if I worked harder, proved myself more, they would come around. But no matter how much I gave, no matter how much I changed, it was never enough. My sister's message, "We don't stay gone," wasn't just a rejection. It wasn't even a dismissal. It was a confirmation. A final, painful confirmation that I had been living a lie. I had been living under the illusion that my family would one day love me the way I needed to be loved. But they weren't capable of that. They didn't know how to love me. And that wasn't my fault. That was something they couldn't fix. They couldn't change who they were, and neither could I. I had spent years trying to force myself into their mold, trying to be the version of myself they could accept. But in the end, I realized something I had never truly acknowledged. I was never meant to fit into their world. It was never about me not being good enough. It was about me not being part of their picture. I was never going to be the son they wanted, the sibling they could celebrate. And that's okay. Because in that moment I understood something I had never understood before. I had the power to create my own world. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need to be a part of their life to be whole. I could build my own life, my own family, my own identity, separate from the people who had never truly seen me. That was freedom. I wasn't their responsibility. I wasn't someone they were going to come around for. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be. I was done seeking approval from people who didn't know how to give it. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. It was about finally taking control of my own story. The next morning was the first day of my life where I felt truly free. The weight of my family's rejection, the years of trying to force myself into a space where I was never meant to fit, it all lifted. For the first time, I wasn't carrying the burden of trying to be someone I wasn't. I wasn't holding on to an illusion that had been shattered by a single message. I woke up early, the soft light of dawn creeping in through the curtains. It was a quiet, peaceful moment. A stark contrast to the noise and chaos of my mind just the night before. I lay in bed for a few moments, just breathing. Just being. No pressure. No expectations. Just me, finally realizing that I didn't need anyone else to define who I was. I could define myself. I got out of bed and made myself a cup of coffee, black just the way I liked it. As I sat at the kitchen table, I looked out the window, watching the world slowly wake up. I realized something then. I had spent so many years waiting for other people to tell me who I was. To tell me I was worthy of love. But I was done with that. I had learned to love myself in a way I never had before. The day stretched out before me, full of possibility. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of what I had lost, of what I could never have. I wasn't afraid of the family I had been born into. I wasn't afraid of the emptiness they had left in me, because I had filled that emptiness myself. With strength. With courage. With the knowledge that I didn't need them to be complete. I spent the day doing things that made me happy. I called up a few friends I hadn't spoken to in a while. I went to the park and sat by the lake, breathing in the fresh air, feeling the weight of my past lifting with each breath. I explored new places in the city, visiting spots I had always wanted to see but never had the courage to go to on my own. I laughed. I let myself feel joy. For the first time in years, I felt alive. In the evening, I cooked myself a simple dinner. I didn't need anyone else to sit at the table with me. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't empty. I was whole. I had built something stronger than I had ever imagined. An identity that was mine, forged from the fires of rejection, strengthened by the understanding that I didn't need anyone else's validation. And as I sat down to eat, I realized that this was what I had been searching for all along. Not their love. Not their approval. But my own. It wasn't easy to let go. The years of longing, of trying to fit into a family that never truly understood me, had left scars. But those scars were no longer painful. They were reminders that I had survived. That I was strong. That I could stand on my own, and that I didn't need anyone else to make me feel worthy. The family I had once dreamed of wasn't the family I needed. I had found something far better. I had found myself. Sometimes, the hardest thing you'll ever do is let go of the people you thought would always be there for you. But in the end, the people who are meant for you will find you. And you'll learn that you don't need anyone's approval to be worthy of love. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever felt the same way, don't forget to like this video. And if you want to hear more stories about finding strength through pain and discovering who you really are, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being here. Keep growing, keep healing, and always remember, you are enough.